Hey, welcome back to my channel. Today I am doing my July wrap-up. I believe I read 10 books this month. So I'm going to show you what I read, what they're about, what I rated them, what I thought about them, that kind of thing. And yes, I am sick, and that is why I sound like this. So I apologize now for that. Let's get into it. So the first book that I read in July was After I Do by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Basically, we're following this couple whose marriage is falling apart, and it kind of goes back and forth between how they met and fell in love and why their marriage is falling apart now. They decide they're going to take a year apart from each other. They're not getting divorced, but they are going to see other people. They're going to do their own thing for a year, and then basically decide whether or not they still love each other at the end of that year. And so it is following Lauren and Ryan present day and what they're doing, and it's in Lauren's perspective, so it's kind of her trying to deal with and come to terms with whether or not she still loves her husband, and then it kind of also shows you how they fell in love and why they got married and all that kind of stuff. This book was really good. I did really enjoy it. I did rate it 4 stars. I don't have much else to say. Taylor Jenkins Reid is great, but I definitely enjoyed Forever Interrupted, which I'll show later, by her better than this one. These are a little bit different than the kind of books I normally read that she writes, like Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo and that kind of thing, because these are purely like romance but with problems. But I did give it 4 stars. It was a really good read. The next book I picked up was The Kite Runner. I'm so glad I read this book. It was great. It follows 2 boys growing up. One of them, his dad is pretty rich. The other one is the servant of their family's son. And it talks about them doing kite running, which is the thing. They have this incident that makes them no longer be friends. And then later on, he has to come back and kind of deal with everything that has happened and the incident and all that kind of stuff. I gave this 5 stars. It was beautiful. I cried multiple times. This book was like, it was pretty heavy, but I really enjoyed it. I did really love it. So I definitely recommend you pick this one up. Next, I read Josh and Hazel's Guide to Not Dating by Christina Lauren. Someone actually sent me this. One of my TikTok friends sent me this book. I rated this 4 stars. Basically, Josh and Hazel met in college, and she was in love with Josh in college, thought he was the perfect man, and they decide that they're just going to be friends, and that kind of develops into more than just friends. They're setting each other up on like group dates, trying to help each other find the one, but really, you know, they like each other. I gave it 4 stars. It was really cute, really fun. I read this in one sitting. Next, I read The Dead Romantics. I literally just picked this up on a whim. So we have our main character has to go home because her father dies, and she can see ghosts, so she doesn't want to go home because there was a whole incident with that. She writes romance novels. She's really stuck on the romance novel she's reading now, and her editor shows up to her as a ghost, and she's trying to help him move on while also trying to deal with her father's funeral. It was really cute. I enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars. I read this also in like one sitting. I thought this was cute and like a quick read. The romance isn't really there until the end, I feel like, but I knew it was coming. I knew how it was going to end, and the ending made me really happy and warmed my heart. I really enjoyed this one as well. I read Forever Interrupted by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This is, I thought, better than After I Do. So basically in the first chapter, her husband dies, and she has only been married for like 9 days. His mother doesn't know about her. Her wedding certificate has not come in the mail, so the mother is called as the next of kin. Her and the mother are not getting, or her mother-in-law are not getting along well, and trying to figure out like funeral preparations and all that kind of stuff. And so it goes back and forth between how they met and fell in love and how they got married, and her kind of coping with the loss of her husband while also building a relationship with the mother-in-law who has also lost her husband, and their relationship is the sweetest once they kind of get it together. I also rated this one 4 stars. I thought this was sweet, and I think it does a good job of dealing with grief of a loved one. Alright, the next book, Pack Up the Moon. I know people stop at this, and I knew the concept. So basically his wife is dying and dead, and she writes him letters, one for every month, of the year after she dies for him to read, with tasks like kiss a girl, see a fortune teller, or whatever, not a fortune teller, a medium. And so they each have a task for him for the year after she dies, and he just doesn't think he can move on. Another one where he's grieving a loved one. I was like, okay, yeah, this is sad she died, but like, I don't think I'm gonna cry. Until the end, man. There's this one thing that happens at the end that's like you had to pay attention to pick up on it, and after that happened, I just lost it and I sobbed like a big baby. It was awful. I also rated this one 5 stars. I loved this. I definitely recommend it, but it will make you cry. I didn't think I was gonna cry, and then I sobbed for like the last couple chapters. I was sobbing like a baby. It was so good. 10 out of 10. Definitely enjoyed this book. Alright, the next one is a wild one, okay? I read My Year of Rest and Relaxation. I gave it 3 stars because I don't know if I love it or if I hated it. She essentially decides that she's going to take a year and just sleep. She's popping pills and she's just sleeping her way through the year. I wish I could just sleep my worries away, but also the most unlikable main character ever. She is, I know that's the point, but she is just so annoying and so self-centered and oblivious to everyone else's problems that she frustrated me, but she was also relatable, which is probably a problem. I liked it. I don't know if I loved it or if I hated it. The last page I was kind of like, what the heck? If you know, you know. My girl Reva deserved better. Honestly, she deserved better. I think she was just portrayed as more annoying than she is, because you have to think that we were looking through the eyes of the narrator, who is kind of self-centered. So Reva, I don't think, was really that bad of a friend as the narrator made her out to be, and I felt bad for her by the end of this. But yeah, it felt like a fever dream. I also read this in one sitting, but I gave it 3 stars because I still don't know where I stand on this book. I'm still so confused about what I read, but apparently it's getting a movie. Then, this is a book I started in high school and never finished, and I feel like after a year of rest and relaxation, same book. Not really, but essentially the same sort of thing. I read The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath. I also rated this 3 stars because it is racist and homophobic, and I know that this was written a long time ago, so I get that, but it just made me very uncomfortable. But also some of the ways that Esther described her depression were relatable, and I thought it did a really good job of talking about her being mentally ill and what it felt like to not really want to be there and be alive. It's just following her journey of her, mental health declining. But there were a lot of things in this book that I get at the time period it wasn't a big deal. It just, personally, when I read it, it gave me the ick. I didn't love it. It made me uncomfortable to read. So therefore I was like, I can't give this anything above 3 stars. Then, I thought I was going to do a lot more reading on my cruise than I did, but I didn't. But I did successfully read this entire book on my cruise, and it is The Summer of Broken Rules. I gave this 4 stars. Basically, we have our main character who is coming back to her summer getaway place that her family has for the first time in 2 years since her sister died, and it's for her cousin's wedding. She has recently been broken up with by her boyfriend, and she meets a new guy while she is here, and they decide to team up because at this wedding celebration, it's like a family tradition to play assassins, and her now dead sister was the assassin queen, so they kind of do it to honor her sister. And so she teams up with him in this game of assassins, and they kind of help each other out. I thought that was the most fun part of this book, is reading how they were plotting to get their people out and that kind of stuff, and the actual assassins game was fun to read about. But also their romance was pretty cute, and I did really enjoy it. I gave it 4 stars. It was a great read for vacation. And then the last one I have is Funny You Should Ask. I did start this on the cruise, but I finished it last night. I also really enjoyed this book. We have our main character who basically interviewed this celebrity, her celebrity crush, 10 years ago, and they spent a weekend together, and she clearly fell in love with him. But then he runs off and gets married to his co-star, and she is hurt. And now 10 years later, she's asked to do a repeat interview. So it goes back in between the original weekend she spent with him, of interviewing him, and the interview and what she said and then what actually happened. It has a bunch of articles too that are like things that she's written over the years that like tie in at certain points, and things that have been written about him and his career, just like outside sources. And then it also follows the now of her coming back to interview him again and kind of like seeing him again for the first time in 10 years now that they are both newly divorced. I thought this was fun and cute. I know a lot of people have lots of mixed opinions on it, but I gave it 4 stars. I read this very quickly. I did start on the cruise, but I finished all of the rest of it yesterday, and I did really enjoy this, so I did give it 4 stars. It was cute, it was fun, and also I think this cover is like the cutest thing ever. So I know that was a very fast video, but again, I am sick, so I didn't really want to make a super long one. I just wanted to get that out of the way, and I know it's been like a month since I posted, but here we are. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye. Angry. The last book. Yeah, you can throw that one out the window. And it's not even because I don't like who she ends up with.